Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into the two of the most powerful data transformation tools in R, Pivot Wider and Pivot Longer from the tidyr package. Whether you are reshaping data for analysis, visualization, or reporting, understanding how to pivot your data is a must-have skill, especially if you're working with clinical trial datasets, survey data, or even sales report. In this video, I will walk you through real-world examples to show how to convert your datasets from long to wide format and back using simple, clean R code. Don't forget to subscribe for more R tips and tricks. And now let's jump right in. So to use the pivot wider and pivot longer function, we will have to install the tidyr package in our RStudio. Again, if you are using this package for the first time in your R, then you will have to install this package by using the install.packages tidyr code in your console window. Otherwise, if you have already installed this, only you need to do is you have to load the required functions or the package using the library statement here. So in this video, since I will be using the tidyr package and I will also be using the Haven uh, package because I want to read the vitals data set here in my current session, I am using these two libraries. I am also using some of the data manipulation functions from the dplyr package, because of which I have used the dplyr package as well. So let's load these libraries and start. My libraries are loaded. Now, before we go through the R code for transformation of data, let's see how we normally proceed with the uh, data transformation in SAS in this scenario. So let's load the vitals data set first and see what the data set consists of. So right now I'm using the read underscore SAS function from the Haven package, and I'm reading the ADVS data set and creating a data frame by the name of vitals here. So if you see in my vitals dataset, we have the multiple param series, which are dia BP and other cis BP, pulse, temperature. All these are there based on the subject's information and their respective treatments, even the date of analysis, the time point values, the visit values, and all other values which are common in your BDS structure. So the AVAL, base, and change all are present. So now if we want to convert this vitals dataset, which is in the longer view, when I say longer view means that all the param CDs are coming as a row and uh, they are coming in one column. But if I want to have one column each for my each param series. Say if I want to have one column for my dia BP test and for another column for cis BP and temperature, then what can we do in R and what we normally do in SAS? So let's talk about SAS first to make it easy to understand how we can navigate from SAS to R in a better way. So ideally, to achieve this in SAS, we use the proc transpose to transpose the data. But before that, since we in this example, I am only using three of the param CDs which I want to transpose. So what I have done in SAS, what we will do is we will uh, sort the data set and we will keep only the param CDs which we want to transpose. And you can see that we have used the sorting parameters, which are the study IDs, use subject ID, the assessment date, visit, and the time point values. Because these are one of the the key variables which are used to uniquely identify the records. These variables are used as our by variables in our SAS and again in our proc transpose to identify the unique records for the uh, param series which we want to transpose. So if we go to the proc transpose statement from SAS, you can see that we are creating a data vitals underscore sorted here, and using this data set and creating vitals underscore y data set, we are keeping the by statements, which, and the by statements is also the statement where we want to tell the SAS that these are the columns by which we want the data to be sorted. Also, these are the columns which we want to be populated for each and every record. Then comes the important point, that since here we want to transpose the param series, and we have already filtered for the param series which we want to transpose, we will use the param cd variable as our id statement. And since we want the values of a val, which is the result values for the respective param series, to come as the values for all each columns which we are creating, we are using the a-val variable in our var statement. So in this way, if we write the proc transpose in SAS, we can achieve the transformation of your vitals data set into a wider view. So if we want to achieve the same in R, what we can do? So for this, we have a function which is known as the pivot underscore wider, which is again, this is a function of your tidyr package. And now we will see how we can use this function and which argument values we have to pass to get the desired result here. So first of all, what I will be doing is I'm reading the vitals dataset which I have just created, and since I will be only transposing these three param series, which are the dia BP, cis BP, and temperature, I am filtering the vitals dataset to get only the records which are for these three param series. So I have used the filter function here, which is a part of the dplyr package. And till this point, what I have achieved is that I have read the vitals dataset, I have applied the filter for sorting out for filtering out the records which are only for param series, either dia BP, cis BP, and temperature. Now if I want to convert it into the wider view, what I can do is that first of all, I will call the pivot wider function, and in this function I have to pass three arguments. The first argument is the ID columns. So in this ID columns, this argument is the argument where we can tell the R that we want the variables which we mentioned in this ID columns argument are the variables which we want to be used as a sorting variables also, and also the variables which will tell R that using these variables identify the unique records and then transpose the respective records. The next is the names underscore from argument, and this will tell the R that okay, the variable which is mentioned in names underscore from is the variable from which you will have to pick up the values of your column name. So right now, since my dia BP, cis BP, and temperatures, which I want to create as a column in my resultant data set, these are present in my param CD. I'm giving the param CD values as names underscore from argument, and it from here this R will understand that the values which are present in my param CD column of my vitals data set, I have to use those values to create the new column names. If you notice, the argument value, which is name underscore from, is also depicting this value that this is the argument from which the names of the new columns will be taken. Now comes the next question, is that the new columns which we are creating, from which values these should be populated. So the next argument is values underscore from. So from this argument, the variable which we mentioned in this argument is the variable from the vitals dataset, which R will take to populate the values of the newly created columns. So here, since The eval is the variables from in the vitals data set, which is having the result values of each param series. We are telling the R that use the eval column to get the values that you will be populating for each newly created columns. So if we run this code, let's see what is the resultant data set. So here you can see that all the variables which we want to keep along with our newly created variables, which are we have mentioned in our first argument, which is the ID underscore calls argument. These are present for each and every record, the subject IDs, the date of analysis, the visit, and the time point variables. Along with that, from the names underscore from argument, the R is aware that from param CD, they have to use the dia BP, sys BP, and temp as the column names. So you can see the same is getting reflected. And for the values, these are the values coming from your third argument, which is values underscore from. And here we have given the value of eval. So in this way, you can use the pivot underscore wider function to create a wide view of the data set. Now let's suppose that now if we want to convert this wider view data set into a longer view data set, then how we can achieve that. For that function also, we have a pivot longer function in our tidyr package. Again, let's undergo the SAS code first to understand how we will achieve the uh, achieve the longer view of the resultant data set in SAS first. So again, we will be using the proc transpose in SAS to get the longer view from the wider view data set here. And we are passing the by statements variables which we want to keep for each and every record here. And then we will mention the where statement. And in the where statement in SAS, we will mention the variable name which we want to change from the wider view to the longer view. And when this code is run, normally, if we are not passing any rename statement, the resultant data set will have two columns created by the name of underscore name underscore and call one. The underscore name underscore column is the column which will have the values of your uh, variables which has been transposed from columns to rows. And the call one variable will be the variable which will have its value. So in this way, we know that the underscore name underscore is the column which is having the values of the param CD. So we have renamed it to param CD and the call one to eval. So please note that this is something which you have to do explicitly in SAS to rename the resultant name underscore and the call one variables to your desired variables, which are the param CD and eval. Now let's go through the R code on how we can achieve the same using the R code. So now again, I'm creating a data frame by the name of vitals underscore long. And for this, I will be using the vitals underscore wide dataset, which we have just created, which is having the wider view of the vitals dataset. And from this dataset, I want to change back the columns which we have created, that is the dia BP, sys BP, and temperature columns back to one column instead of three columns. And I want to rename that column as my param CDs, and the another variable will be created which will have the result values of these param CDs, and I want to rename that to eval. So in pivot underscore longer function, again, you have three arguments. And in the first argument is the calls argument, where you will tell which columns you want to convert from column to row view. So in this scenario, since I want to change my dia BP, sys BP, and temperature, I am mentioning these three as as a inside my combined function, and in the calls argument, that these are the variables which I want to change from column to row. And I am using the names underscore two argument here to give the name which I want to give to the resultant column, which will have the test names or the param cds name. And then the third is the values underscore two column, where I am giving the name of the column which I want to give to the column which will contains the result of these particular tests. So here, I want to name it as param cds to the columns and the eval to the result values. So the same I have mentioned. Please note that these two values which I want to assign, since I'm assigning these values, I have given the values in my quotations here, the double quotes here. So now let's run this and see the result. So my vitals underscore long data set is created, and you can see I am having all the variables which I have kept in my calls, uh, uh, all the variables which I have already had in my vitals underscore wide data set. And I have now converted back the dia BP, cis BP, and temperature columns back to my param CD columns, and their respective results are populated in my eval column here. Please note here there is a slight difference between SAS and R code here in this example, that when we were using R, we have to specifically rename the columns to our desired variable name. But in R, we do not need a separate renaming function for this. And we can direct whatever arguments we are passing in our pivot underscore longer function. Using that, we can provide our desired column name here. So in this way, you can achieve the transformation of data, where if you want to change the data set from longer to wider view, then you can use the pivot underscore wider function. And if you want to change the wider data set to your longer view, then you can use the pivot underscore longer function here. So that's all for today. If you want me to cover any specific topic, let me know in comments. Thanks for watching.